For thousands of years, we've been under the impression the Bible is meant to be taken seriously. Finally, a new translation that'll change all that. This is Oh My God, What the Fuck Bible.
Reach out, touch faith.
Welcome to Season 4, Episode 9 of Oh My God, What the Fuck Bible with me, David Tuckman. Where I'm recording this is still a secret, but next week it won't be. I'll get to that in a second. Each week on the show, a guest joins me and tries to read a whole big chunk of my own personal translation of the Hebrew Bible while I make fun of it. Next episode will be recorded in a public place. It won't be secret. You can be there. There will be a live audience. You can be part of that live audience. It's the season finale of Season 4. It'll be July 14th. 9:30 p.m. at Anyone Comics in Brooklyn, so that's 1216 Union Street, Brooklyn. Whoa! Anyway, in this episode, my guest joins me to read about some extremely sexist rules, war, and of course, lists of things. Enjoy! Today on the show we have Simone Shet. He is a photographer, a political commentator, a Howard Beale enthusiast, I think we would call him.
Yeah, this is an aside, but he's the villain of the movie. People don't understand the movie. No, he is.
No, I know. He absolutely is.
He is the villain, but he's just a very charismatic villain.
If not the villain, the very deluded anti-hero.
He was what we were warned of.
Exactly. And we kind of missed the point.
He's the good. He ranted and he yelled at people. He's the good guy.
Yeah,
that's what I got out of that movie.
He is Facebook personified.
Sidney Lumet tried to show us the way. Never won an Oscar, by the way.
It's a shame.
A little bit of anti-Semitism right there.
You think so in the Academy?
He was the first person, actually. This is not what your podcast is about, but he was the first person to do a movie about a Holocaust survivor ever, The Pawnbroker. Interesting factoid. Nobody's ever seen that movie. But wow. It's about a Jewish Holocaust survivor, shopkeeper, man, works at a pawn shop, depressing life.
Yeah, and didn't win anything for it, or never saw the light of day.
It wasn't in black and white, so it wasn't French, so.
Right, there was no little girl in a wet dress.
Yeah.
What are you doing with yourself?
Yeah, so I have migrated from being a huge degenerate nerd. I do street style for a living, basically, so what that means is like a hangout where fashionable people hang out at, and I take pictures of their clothing in the street. And I also do, I started to work for Teen Vogue, as I mentioned before. A little bit more political stuff. I was intending to be a little bit more into the politics, but then Peter Thiel bankrupted my employer, Gawker, shortly after the RNC. So,
yeah, that kind of sucks.
Hopefully he gets to drink a lot of young people's blood.
Wait, is he drinking it? He's not injecting it?
I mean, he says he's not drinking it, but do we really know that? I mean,
who knows what goes on?
What are you really going to do with a vat of young people's blood?
Bathe in it.
It's like that Suicide Squad scene with the bad Joker.
Nobody saw that movie.
What's the woman? Margot Robbie? Yeah. I think that was Squidward.
Reference is lost a little bit.
I don't think you gotta watch the Jared Leto.
The Joker. Suicide Squad?
The Joker. So.
What
is this? Some kind of Suicide Squad? That's a line from the movie. I'm sorry.
Wait, seriously?
Will Smith says that.
Oh my God.
Not to the camera.
What is this? Some kind of Independence Day?
Yeah.
You also run a Facebook page.
Yeah. I've kind of retired lately because it's a lot of work and it's incredibly unrewarding, but I do have a lot of interesting data from it. So long story short, I have a Facebook page called Read the Dem News where I try to be a reliable news source for my friends and hundreds of thousands of other strangers on the internet who mostly disagree with me.
Who have all sorts of interesting opinions.
Yeah, but actually, you know what? They can at least be reasoned with. I've met some folks out there on the internet who have lately I've been into the flat earther people, and a lot of them say space is fake. Mm-hmm. Like not only that we haven't been there, but it doesn't exist. That would be a hard one for me to engage with, I think.
Well, how do you reason with people like that?
Everyone, you have to understand where they're coming from, what's valuable to them,
mm-hmm.
what's really, I think, okay, so for example, it's all sorts of people that post on that page. I've been running it for years. I post articles day in, day out, different shit, different perspectives. There was once a guy who posted a very insightful comment, at least from me, and he said that he was a reformed conspiracy theorist, and I really don't like conspiracy theorists, but I don't understand why they seem to be more prevalent today. Mm-hmm. And he said to me that the allure for him was, for example, let's say the flat earth people are right. Let's say that they're actually right. They've cracked the case. They figured it out. And everyone else is an idiot sheeple that like is just not as smart as them. Doesn't that feel good? Isn't that emotionally satisfying to be like, hey, you're a dumb sheep and I'm a lot smarter than you and I did the research. So I think it's irrelevant the belief. I think it's just getting to that point where you're telling them like, hey, you're a sheep. Like you should believe this or you're a sheep. Like I'm a unique, creative, brilliant credit to the species for saying the earth is flat on YouTube 20 times a day. And you're, sheep.
Mm-hmm. So it's
sheep,
like getting in touch with that. Yeah, I mean, that's what it seems. It's always sounding like to me that it's about like this feeling that you're better than other people, that you have access to some secret knowledge that they don't know.
Yeah, I think that inherent to people, we want that.
Yeah.
Which is that's not a cool thing to think about, but I think that
conspiracy theories are an easy way to access that. And
I mean, look, NASA people. I know people that work at NASA. They don't like go to random bars and be like, "Hey, like, do this fucking rocket fuel equation," or "You're a sheep." You know, like that doesn't happen. You know, it's people who actually know stuff are a little more humble and they have a little more nuance for their views. It's
the Dunning-Kruger effect, or at least the feeling that as you learn more, you realize how much you don't know at all.
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting arguments the flat earth people use, and I can see how people can get suckered into it, but I think the primary, like the belief, I think is secondary. I think it's just like, I need to feel like I'm a unique, superior, intellectually individual, and I'm going to just go with that the earth is flat, and I'm the only one who's figured it out.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of belief, let's talk a little bit about your religious background.
Segue.
Thank you. Been practicing. How did you grow up in terms of religion?
So I had a bit of a weird one. Also for me, it was kind of a culture shock, knowing that other people weren't like this, but I'm a Moroccan Jew, which, yes, we do exist. Some people don't know that that's a thing, or that there are Jews who are not European. And there is not a whole lot of oppression in our background, at least on a systematic level to speak of. So we're Moroccan Jews that moved to New York, whereas most of the Moroccan Jews, if they left Morocco, they went to Paris or Montreal or French-speaking places for the most part. And for some reason, my family went to New York, and I'll put it to you like this. So I was once, almost all the Uber drivers in Paris are Moroccan. Go figure. And I was talking to one guy and I said, yeah, I'm Jewish Moroccan from New York. And he was way more surprised, and it's a Muslim guy, that I was Moroccan living in New York than that I was Moroccan Jewish. He was like, oh, I'm Jewish. Nobody, but what the fuck are you doing in New York? Like, very, very unusual. Mm-hmm. And then I went to Manhattan Day School, Yeshiva or Torah, which was my first school. I think I did a stint in Park East, but it was a very, very very Eastern European school, like very traditional New York Jewry. And I remember being baffled that, like, hey, how come you guys like pray differently, and how come your whole family was killed in the 40s? What happened then? You know, a lot of big differences, a lot of big cultural divides. Food, no one knew what fucking couscous was. I mean, you know, stuff that was normal to me, and that I thought every Jew was like me. I realized I'm like a minority of a minority pretty quick. And one of my first friends in MDS was actually an Ethiopian Jew, Benjamin McIntosh. Shout outs to wherever you are right now. So I don't know. It's just, I don't want to say it's odd that we gravitated to each other, but it's like, I think even at a young age, I realized that I was not in the mainstream of Judaism, certainly not in New York. And then that just gave me a lot of cultural stuff to think about.
Yeah. I mean, I think that may have already like started to create some distance between you and the Jewish mainstream.
Well, I don't want to say that you're right, but you're right. For me, in school, a big thing was always a prayer. Like, I was not good at praying, which was always a concept that just made me confused, because like, why do people even pray differently? Why does it matter? Why do I have to pray at these 3 specific times a day? And then there was a story they used to tell us in the yeshiva about this guy who, I think it was like the Yom Kippur Mass. I don't know the English word, whatever. And all the congregants are gathered and praying. And at the height of the prayers, one guy who's like, a schlub, like very poor, he starts playing the flute. And everyone's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, put the flute away. And then the head rabbi's like, well, actually, his flute playing is like counts more than your actual praying, because he's, it's all he knows how to do, and he's doing it with his full heart and his nachas and everything. And I was like, okay, that's like a nice story, but then how come I'm praying wrong?
I mean, I've also had experience personally with like that kind of frustration with prayer too, and I remember that exact same story because for me, I was always confused by how everybody could finish so quickly.
Yeah.
And I would try to say all the words, and at one point I realized that nobody was actually saying the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it really blew my mind. Would you want to talk about where you are in your faith today?
Sure. I mean, it's a complex spot I'm in, because I don't really believe in the biblical God per se. Another thing, which even as a really young kid always just left me scratching my head, is, so God revealed himself in very, very like specific, obvious ways to like sheep herders, at the time they were very old, granted, but they were nobodies, they weren't the king of Egypt yet. They were just, like sheep herders, farmers, very simple people, very humble, pious people. And yet today, we have like wars going on, all these sorts of crazy things that they could never imagine then, the Holocaust. And to think God would like directly intervene in all those times, like the amount of times he's intervened seems to be just only around the time the Torah was written. And then you're just like, okay, like have fun,
very
guys.
Small slice of history.
And then there's been significant, I would say there's probably been a lot more persecution of Jews on aggregate than the time of the temple being destroyed and enslavement and all that stuff.
Yeah, and in the understanding of the story, that was God doing that to punish the Jews, not even like intervening to prevent persecution.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's always been something that's been very perplexing to me, and I just couldn't reconcile it. And I remember even asking questions like that.
Oh no, that's a bad move.
Well, in Gemara, I really enjoyed Gemara, and I think that I owe a lot of my reasoning and argumentative ability to it, just because it trains you to think that way at a very young age, which I do think is clever and a valuable thing for children. But at the same time, it was odd because there were certain questions that there really wasn't answers. Or I remember there was a parsha that I was reading, my parsha for my bar mitzvah. It's just, I can't remember what it was. I think it was Teruma, but it's just talking about all the stuff that was used in the Bible in the temple to build it, all the ingredients or whatever.
Sounds like Teruma.
And then there was one specific item that they mentioned, which it's never mentioned again, but it's some like mythical animal or something, but none of my rabbis or anyone couldn't tell me like what it was, and it was never mentioned again in the Torah.
Yeah.
And like I had to research, and I was very young, like doing my mitzvah parsha, being like, well, that's odd that there's some like basically unicorn thing that's like only mentioned. You think a fucking unicorn would be kind of a big deal,
I think you'd mention it in the creation at least, and there's no way to know what it is because it's never mentioned again. There were a few weird translations that I ended up with where there's something that maybe means sea monster, there's something that might mean dolphin skin, which is strange to think about the Jews using in their or the Israelites using in their temple.
I looked up the actual Hebrew word, and I don't know, someone said it was some like old, it was weird, is I was trying to figure out, because it also gave like some kind of proportions for it, I think. And I had like one of those old eyewitness books, that had all the pictures of dinosaurs or whatever. So I had a horse one, and I was trying to find in that book like which horse would be the best parallel for that animal, and I didn't. And then I had this was another weird one that kind of left me scratching my head. It was frustrating because I had another one that was just about like, I guess, Egyptian history, and I was a big reclusive nerd in school, and I would always just go in the corner and read. And there was one that talked about how there was a famine in Egypt, this is actually mentioned in the Bible, in the Jewish Bible, and it talks about how long it lasted and this and that, and there was a real, that was the historical record and the biblical record matches up with it. And they said that according to the fossils or whatever the hieroglyphs, that it was like thanks to some, Egyptian god that it ended or something. And then the Torah gives a very specific reason for it ending. And I was like, wow, that's neat. That's something that actually is like backs it up, I guess. And then I remember there was like some nudity or something, or some nude statue on the same page as that. And I remember showing that to my rabbi in class, and I thought like he would have been okay, whatever, there's like a nude statue. But isn't that cool that this like, non-Jewish book, like he just took it away and I was like punished, and I was like, well, but that's,
oh man, that's
like,
so frustrating. Like you were, it's little moments like that where you were trying to engage with your faith and you got pushed away because of.
Yeah, also the fact that I
nude statue
didn't fit the culture. I had a bit of a different way of learning, and going to a small Jewish school, they didn't really have a lot of accommodation, certainly not in the 90s, for people with attention deficit disorder and things like that, and hyperactivity. And it was just a square peg in a round hole in a lot of ways. I didn't have many friends in that school, and I was not a great academic achiever. Never was. I was a nudnik.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, now you're doing okay.
I wouldn't say okay. I would still say there's a lot of existential questions for me there. I'm very proud of like the Jewish Moroccan tradition and the culture and history associated with that in specific, because it is, I think, a very fascinating and unique history for Jews, and one that is one of the few, I think, where Jews and Arabs really did coexist and live not only like tolerantly, but respectfully, more than tolerance. And as I've gone out into the world and met a bunch of other like Moroccan Muslims and stuff, I mean I've told pretty much all of them that I'm Jewish, like within minutes of meeting them, and none of them have ever been like, oh, I hate you for being like. It's never been. It's just like.
No, that tends to not really happen in real life.
And I don't know. It was very. I don't want to say it was presented like a black and white picture in high school, but I think.
It very much was. I think
when I was growing up, a little older, when I was more into my late teens, I remember somehow coming across the fact when I was first like trying to understand the Israel-Palestine situation. That Moroccan Jews and Yemeni Jews, when they first moved to Israel, they weren't treated very well, and they were actually discriminated against. And Bibi even has a lot of things where he's been on the record saying some really fucked up things about Sephardic people, and like how in Israel, like the Orthodox people don't want to let their kids play with like Sephardic kids or something like that, and shit like that. I mean, it just makes you really think about stuff a little differently, or with a little more context.
Yeah.
And that was something that really was changed my understanding.
Mm-hmm. So you're somebody who does have a lot of experience with the text, with like the Torah, the Nach as well, the subsequent books. Is there a particular story or character or somebody that you really relate to?
You put me on the spot a little bit here. It's been a minute.
Or anything that you just remember that sticks out to you?
There was a few interesting tidbits that I remember. I remember that for the Noah's Ark portion, there's something in the Torah that says like some giant dude like hung onto the side of the ark as it was.
Yeah, I think it's a midrash, or like that Og, the king of Bashan, was holding on to.
And I was like, that's kind of cool. Like, how can we never talk about that guy?
Yeah, that's like those kids who ride on the outside of the train.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was another thing, I guess. What's the Jewish Revelations called? The last one, the cool one.
There's Divrei Yamim, but there's like your Chronicles or Jeremiah or whatever.
I think it's Jeremiah. I don't remember the English name. But they were describing like the creatures that would be around that would, lead to the end of the world. And one of them, I don't remember if this was like a Rashi or like a Midrash or something, but I remember talking about this in school as a very young kid and being super, it was having like a fucking Pokemon to me. It's like some fish or something, like a really, really big fish. And it's like...
Leviathan?
I guess. And they said like, oh, its breath or something would stink so bad that it would like stink to heaven and kill people, or something. It just had like some toxic breath or something.
That's so rad. That's a great
I guess
Pokemon.
It would be a poison water type. If you really want to go into it.
Love it.
Probably would be a good type. It would be like Toxapex actually, which maybe, there's a relationship there.
Probably. Are you ready to read the Bible?
No, but I guess that's why I'm here.
This is Torah, a loose translation, Book 4 in the Desert, chapter, or episode 9, chapter 62, in which women are shown their place, numbers 33 to 3017.
Oh, I remembered something else. When they were eating mon in the desert and it didn't just taste like anything. And I was like, that's cool. Where's that at? Like,
yeah.
But then it even wasn't enough for them because they wanted
meat, and then they got punished with...
That was also interesting because it's like that whole ordeal. I mean, okay, so it like tastes like anything, but the texture is like only one texture. And that's like not enough for 40 years for people.
No.
And that was something I was like, you know what, that I could,
Yeah, the people, when they complain, they're not really complaining they're complaining for pretty good reasons.
I always thought that was a bit weird, but like I could understand that. I never really thought specifically, okay, like what if like steak had the texture of like a Snickers bar or something, like, and everything was that texture. It wouldn't be very fun to eat stuff.
Yeah. It's like Seitan.
Yeah. Alright, so am I starting this Bible? IX The Tribes, which was a great PC game also that I was playing at the time. Shout out to the Tribes player, Spinfuser. This is what Yehovah commanded, Moshe said to the heads of the tribes and to the sons of Yisrael.
At some unspecified time point.
Yes. If a man vows to Yehovah or swears or binds his souls, he has to keep his word. He must do everything that leaves his mouth.
Mm-hmm. Great way to describe talking.
Yeah. If a woman vows to Yehovah or bonds herself in her father's house in her youth, and her father hears her vow, and the bound she put on her soul and keeps his mouth shut, all her vows and bonds on her soul will stand. But if her father doesn't let her on the day he hears, all vows and bonds she's bonded on her soul do not stand. Yehovah will forgive her because her father doesn't let her.
So fathers have complete control over their daughters. Great.
Yes. If she belongs to a man and still has some vows and some things binding her, it depends on the guy. If her man holds back when he hears about it, her vow and the bond on her soul stands. But if, when her man hears it, he stops it, the vow is lifted from on her, and that which passed her lips to bound her soul is gone, and Yehovah will forgive her. But anything a widow or a woman who's been chased away bind on their soul stands.
So, as we know, any man who controls a woman controls her vows. Wonderful.
Oh, I thought about a different thing from the Bible. I'll talk about it.
Yeah.
I think so when Lot was greeting Abraham for the first time, it says that like he kissed him on the mouth and like with his tongue, but like because he was like looking for jewels hidden in his mouth or something.
Yes, I think it was Lavan and
Yeah,
Yaakov.
yeah,
Or
and he was like looking for jewelry that he had hidden in his mouth, and I was like, okay, I guess he just gave him a French kiss.
That's what French kissing originally was. Shaking somebody's hand, you're looking for a rock, and making out with them, you're looking for hidden
rubies
jewels
under the tongue.
I like that the trend, like a woman who's chased away is that's the literal translation that he wrote, but we understand that as a divorced woman.
Oh.
So just giving more control to the man if he decides to chase his woman.
If a woman vowed in her man's house or swore on her soul, and her man heard and held back and didn't do nothing, her vow and every binding she puts on her soul stand. But if her man stops them on the day he hears them, any binding or vow that leaves her lips falls. He, man, stopped it, and Yehovah will forgive her. I have the power. Every vow, every swear to afflict the soul, her man can let it stand or nullify it.
So she doesn't even like have power of her own speaking over herself.
If her man holds back every day, all her vows are binding on her stand because he held back on the day he heard it. But if he nullifies them after hearing it, then he must carry her iniquity. These are the rules Yehovah commanded Moshe between a man and his woman, between a father and his daughter, and between a young woman and her dad.
So 8 simple rules for vowing as my teenage daughter. That's chapter 62. Chapter 63, in which There is war. Numbers 31:1 to 31:12.
Avenge the sons of Yisrael against the Midianites, Jehovah said to Moshe, after you will die.
That is not the best motivational technique.
Kind
I
of a
don't
raw
think.
deal.
Yeah.
And they said Infinity War is the craziest crossover ever. Arm your men for the war, Moshe said to the nation. We will go to Midian to give them a taste of Jehovah's revenge.
Very salty.
1,000 from every tribe. All tribes will send men to the army.
Oh boy, I like how we're setting up like there's going to be a fight, there's going to be a battle, but of course it's the Bible. We have to get into minutia.
Yeah. From the thousands of Israel, 1,000 were sent to the army from each tribe. 12,000 armed men for the army. Moshe took these 1,000 men from each tribe to war. Them and Pinchas, the son of Elazar the Kohen, carrying the holy tools and the blasting trumpet in his hands.
You can't go to war without a trumpet.
Yeah, this is also another thing that kind of perplexed me about the Bible is like certain things will give you like absurd amounts of detail on, and then other things just like, don't eat pigs ever. Mm-hmm. Like I remember,
don't cook a kid's goat in its mother's milk.
Yeah, and then I remember like when it's talking about like the trees of birth or whatever, it's like this guy gave birth, this guy lived for this amount, and it's like so specific and so much detail for like 100 pages of this whole guy's family tree, and then it's like, okay, never eat a pig.
Yep. Maybe it was different writers.
I don't know. They battled Midian, just like Jehovah commanded Moshe, and killed every male.
That's genocide.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
They killed the kings of Midian with the rest. They killed Evi, Rechem, Sor, Chor, and Reva, the 5 kings of Midian. They killed Bilam, the son of Beor, by the sword.
Wait, Bilam just became a good guy like 2 episodes ago.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. I'm just, there's a lot of killing in a short amount of words.
A lot of people introduced after they've been killed.
So we killed how many people?
Well, an unspecified number of Midianites, 5 kings, and then Bilam.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And then women are alive? Okay.
For now.
The sons of Israel kidnapped the women of... Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Their children, their animals. Oh yes, I remember there was a lot of very specific rules for concubines.
Yes,
in Torah.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah,
yes.
that's
the earrings. You got to have the cool earrings for your concubines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember all that. Their children.
Next season, we're going to learn what happens when you kidnap a woman that you want to have sex with during war. Yeah.
Yes, that was a little bit outdated. Those portions.
Yes.
Be careful what earrings you get, guys. Their children, their animals, their things, and all their weapons were booty.
That means they were slaves.
They burned all the cities in their land, all their encampments in fire. They took all the booty and spoils, human and animal. They brought the captives, the booty, and the spoils to Moshe, Elazar the Kohen, and all the sons of Israel at the camp in the plains of Moab, near the Yarden at Jericho.
That's chapter 63. Chapter 64.
And which things got heated over some booty.
That's right, Numbers 31:13 to 31:54. If you're following along in the normal
It's been
version.
a long time since I've read this stuff. I forgot some of the particulars of how this works out.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
It hasn't been spoiled for you yet.
Oh yeah, it's like rewatching Lost or something.
Yes, exactly.
You know.
It's like rewatching a very slow version of Lost.
Moshe and the end series sucked. The last episode sucked. Moshe and Elazar the Kohen and all the presidents of the group went out to greet the army outside of the camp. Moshe was pissed with the captains of the army. Is this the King David's Bible translation?
Yeah. No, that's the David.
Okay,
Bible
just regular
translation.
David,
Yeah.
peasant David. The officers of thousands and the chiefs of hundreds who came from fighting the war. You let all the women live? Moshe said to them, They made the sons of Yisrael revolt against Jehovah. What do you
Who
thinking?
hasn't?
Back during that Bilam thing.
Yes, back when there was a whole orgy in the middle of the camp, and Pinchas impaled some people while they were having sex. Fun stuff.
They know that whole thing with Peor. There was a plague. You have to kill all the little boys and every woman who has fucked a man. But the virgin women who have not slept with a man, they can live.
So the Bible specifies slept with a man. Perhaps lesbians who have had sex are allowed to
Okay.
live.
Check the hymens.
Yeah.
Also camp outside the camp for 7 days.
That's a good question. How did they know who was a virgin and who wasn't?
I think they knew what a hymen was
Yeah,
back then,
but
which is, let's not go too deep into it. Anyone who killed a soul or touched a corpse, purify yourself on the 3rd day and the 7th day, you and your
Your
captives.
sweet young virgin captives.
Any piece of clothing, anything leather or made from goat hair or wood, you must purify. These are the rules of the teaching Jehovah commanded Moshe. Elazar the Kohen said to the warriors coming from the war, the gold, silver, the brass, the iron, the tin, and the lead. Oh me, oh my. Anything that could come into the fire, bring it into the fire and make it clean. But it should also go into the water of cleaning for purification.
Of course, the water of cleaning. That's how you clean things. Fire and water, right?
War is dirty. Bring everything that can go into the fire into the water. Wash your clothes on the 7th day and clean them. After you can come back to the camp.
We really need to reinstitute the whole, soldiers have to wash their clothes before they come back.
And living in nomadic camps,
Yeah.
yes. You, Elazar the Kohen. I mean, they didn't have social media. It might have been, they had something figured out. You, Elazar the Kohen, and the heads of the fathers of the group, Jehovah said to Moshe. Do a head count of the captives you got, of the people and the animals. Then divide, you're an animal. Then divide them between those who went out to the war and the rest of the group. From the portion of those who went out to fight, raise 1 soul for 500. From the people, the cattle, the donkeys, and the sheep for Jehovah. Take it from their half and give it to Elazar the Kohen as a tribute to Jehovah.
Wait, what is happening to these people?
From the half of the sons of Israel, take 1 from every 50. From the man, the cattle, the donkeys, the sheep, and all the animals. And give it to the Levites who are in charge of watching the sanctuary of Jehovah. Moshe, Elazar the Kohen, did what Jehovah commanded Moshe. The stuff, in addition to the booty, the nation took in war.
Speaking of details.
675,000 sheep, who all believe the world is round. 72,000 cattle, 61,000 donkeys, 32,000 virgin women. Holy shit. The half of the men who went out to war. 337,500 sheep. 675 for Jehovah, 36,000 cattle, 73 for Jehovah, 30,500 donkeys, 61 for Jehovah, 16,000 virgin women, 32 for Jehovah. What's he going to do with that? Okay.
Right?
Moshe gave the tribute for Jehovah to Elazar the Kohen, just like Jehovah commanded Moshe. And the half of the sons of Israel that Moshe split from the men were fighting. The half of the group was 337,500 sheep.
Oh, right, because it's half, so it's the same amount.
63,000 cattle, 30,500 donkeys, 16,000 virgin women.
That is a lot of virgin women.
Just a lot of
things.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Jesus, sorry, it's so overwhelming. Moshe took 1 out of every 50 from the people and the animals and gave it to the Levites who watch over the watching of Jehovah's sanctuary, just like Jehovah commanded Moshe, you dum-dum. The officers who led thousands and hundreds in the army came to Moshe, always with the hundred in the army. Your slaves have taken the heads of your military who are in our hands, they said. We haven't lost a single man, not one.
That's surprising.
We've made the sacrifice for Jehovah. Anyone who found a gold tool, armlets, bracelets, rings, earrings, and girdles to atone on our souls before Jehovah. Moshe and Elazar the Kohen took the well-worked, specifically, gold jewelry from them.
It has to be the good stuff.
In total, there were 16,750 shekels of gold given in tribute to Jehovah from the captains of thousands and the captains of hundreds. The men of war had taken booty for themselves. Moshe and Elazar, the Kohen, took the gold from the captains of thousands and hundreds. And then they brought them to the tent of meeting as a memorial for the sons of Israel.
That's chapter 64.
Before
this
Jehovah.
Is one of those, like what you were saying, there's like detail and then there's no detail. There's no detail during the action scene when there's a freaking war and we might get to see some details of battle, in a narrative, fun stuff like that.
Maybe they consider that not important at the time, or maybe it was just like everyone was like, hey, remember that war? Like, I never knew the details, and they were just like, you don't have to write that. Never remember. They didn't talk about it just yesterday.
Remember all those virgin women we got?
Yeah.
That's chapter 64.
Got 1,000 of them right here.
Chapter 65, in which there is a dispute over real estate. Numbers 32:1 to 32:42.
That's Bamidbar, right?
That is Bamidbar, yeah. In the desert. There's something very special about how Jewish this is. There's the counting of things, and now there's a real estate deal going on.
Yeah. Just like Brooklyn. The sons of Reuven and Gad had a whole lot of cattle, like a ton, so many you wouldn't believe. They saw that the lands of Yazar and Gilad had room for their cattle. They came to Moshe. Etaron, you don't have the Hebrew names. It's so much easier in Hebrew the names.
I would say it's probably Ataron, Divon, Yazer, Nimra, Cheshbon, Elazai,
Yeah, Cheshbon, that's how you would say it.
Vo and Von. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. See, I never did the English names. Even when I was reading in English, I'd always do the Hebrew names.
I know. Well, that's why I transliterate them as the Hebrew names because they're not. It's always been Moshe to me.
Okay.
You might know him as Moses.
Yeah. I mean, no. They said to Moshe, Elazar the Kohen, and the heads of the crew. The crew chilling. That's the land Jehovah smacked down before the Israel group.
Oh, okay. These are more people who died in the battle.
From the top ropes. We want it for our cattle. Your slaves have got cattle. If we've found favor in your eyes, give this land to your slaves as a holding. We won't cross the Jordan. Don't worry about it. Will your brothers go to war while you stay behind?
No,
Moshe.
no, more guilt tripping.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay, it's sarcastic. Will your brothers go to war while you stay behind? What are you, much shyness? Moshe said to the sons of Reuven and Gad, why do you turn away from the hearts of the sons of Israel and from going over to the land Jehovah gave to you? That's what your fathers did when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to look at the land. They went up to the valley of Eshcol, saw the land, and turned the heart of the sons of Israel away from it, from the land Jehovah gave to them. Jehovah got incensed then. He swore to me.
Of all the people who don't want to curse on this, I'm surprised that you're one of them. What are you going to do?
It's sacred stuff.
It's okay.
He swore to me that none of the men who rose up from Mitzrayim, from 20 and up, would see the land. He promised to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, because they were not completely behind him, except for Caleb, the son of Yefuneh, the Kenizi 350s boosts. The Yehoshua, the son of Nun, because they were behind him 100%. Is just Moshe talking this whole time? Jesus.
There's a lot of friggin' quotes.
Fucking War and Peace over here. Because they were behind them 100%. Jehovah was so pissed at Yisrael, he made them wander in the desert for 40 years until the entire generation that had done this bad thing before had died.
Mm-hmm. Remember 2 episodes ago.
Kick the bucket.
This just friggin' happened.
And now you're rising up under your fathers, a whole load of men who sin, to get Jehovah mad at Israel again. If do this.
If you do this, maybe?
It just says if do this.
I know.
I think that's an exact if do this.
That's definitely an exact translation.
He'll leave us to die here in the desert and slaughter this entire nation. So kind of calling them pussies, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
We will build enclosures for our sheep and cities for our kids, they said.
Kids love cities.
I like the one that I'm in. But we'll be ready with weapons to fight before the sons of Israel until we've brought them to their place. And our children will live in cities fortified for the people there. We will not return to our homes until all the sons of Israel, all of them, have their inheritances, because we will not inherit them on that side of the Jordan from now, because our inheritance will come on the eastern side of the Jordan. You didn't see that coming.
Yeah,
you shrunk, huh? If you do this, Moshe said, if you go before Jehovah to fight, and every warrior crosses the Jordan before Jehovah, drives your enemies from in front of you, and you take over the land before Jehovah and return after, you'll be good to go. Then you'll get your land.
Good negotiating.
But, however, on the flip side, alternatively, if you don't do this, you have sinned to Jehovah.
Oh.
And know that your sin will find you. Go! Go ahead. Build. You want to build cities for your children? Go ahead. You want. Who's stopping? I'm not stopping you. Go ahead. Build the cities and the enclosures for your sheep and do what you said you would. Go. What are you waiting for? Need some help? You need me to lay down the first brick? I'll do it. What's the big deal? Your slaves will do what our master has commanded, they said. Our children, our women, our cattle, and all our animals will be there in the cities of Gilad.
Oh, Gilead.
But your slaves will cross with weapons before Jehovah for war, like our master said.
Topical, Gilad.
Moshe put Elazar the Kohen, Yehoshua the son of Nun, and the heads of the fathers' houses of the sons of Israel in charge of them. If all the warriors of the sons of Gad and Reuven cross the Yarden with you, Moshe said to them before Jehovah, and they quell the land before you, we'll give them the land of Gilad as their possession. You can have it.
You can have Gilad.
Free Gilad. But if they don't cross over with you with weapons, they'll get a possession in the land of Canaan. What's behind Canaan? Number 1.
A bunch of tribes that don't want to get genocided.
What Jehovah has said about his slaves, we will do, the sons of God and Reuben said. You will cross the Yarden in the land of Canaan, armed before Jehovah, and you will give us our possession over the Yarden. Moshe gave the sons of Gad and Reuven and half the tribe of Manasseh, the son of Yosef, the kingdom of Sichon, the king of Emori, the kingdom of Og. I remember that guy.
Og,
the king of the Bashan, and the land, its cities, its borders, and all the surrounding cities.
They got some cities.
Good cities. The sons of God, Gadinov, Atarot, Aroer, Etrot, Shofan, Yazer, and Yagba, Beit Nimra, and Beit Haran. Just throw them in. Fortified cities and sheep enclosures.
If you act now, you get Beit Timrah and Beit Haran too.
Call now. The sons of Reuven built Cheshbon, Alale. Why are these the English names? Cheshbon, Alale, Kiryat, what's the fucking Hebrew name? Kiryatayim, Nivo, Baalmon. That one was getting a name change. And Shivma.
What's it now?
I don't know.
Okay.
They called them new names when they made them.
Okay.
You get a new name, and you get a new name.
You get a new name. You get some land.
The sons of Mechir, the son of Manasseh, went to Gilad and took it away from the Emori who were there. That's mine. Moshe gave Gilad to Mechir, the son of Manasseh, and he settled there. Yair, the son of Manasseh, went and took the villages near it and called them Chavot Yair. Novach went and took Kanad and its villages. He called them Novach after himself. A real original guy.
Really, really narcissistic. That's chapter 65. That is the tribes.
A mouthful.
Thank you, Simone. Thank you so much for reading that. You got really into it in the end. I like that. Now is the part of the show called the Devar Torah, which literally means the Torah word. So I was wondering if you could sum up what you've read into a single word.
Negotiating.
Yeah. I think so.
A lot of negotiating.
A lot of negotiating.
You're going to kill them, you're going to take them, you're going to take this city, you're going to take this person, you're going to take this concubine, take this sheep.
A lot of negotiating, a lot of parsing up value, a lot of things. I think my word was vow.
The art of the deal.
Oh, I didn't want to name it in this one. My word was vow, just because there's a lot of promises being made throughout it, in a sense, and because it's just, once again, a bunch of disparate stories that don't necessarily have a lot to do with each other, because this thing is so insanely episodic and bounces from.
I mean, if you want to be somewhat cynical,
yeah,
you could describe the whole Torah as negotiating, kind of.
Okay. A lot of it is.
A lot of arguing.
A lot of arguing.
Go figuring with these Jews. Nothing simple.
Yeah. Do you have any other final thoughts about this? Like, is there anything that you take away from this story?
More than anything, it makes me want to read like a Spark Notes Torah or something just to get a refresher on everything that happened.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, even if you don't agree with like what stemmed from it, it is like, you could call it like an Iliad or something like that, like an epic poem that's, of particular relevance to our culture and religion and traditions.
One thing you can do is you can download the Just a Bible Bits episodes of Oh My God, What the Fuck Bible that don't include the interviews, and you can listen to that.
I would rather actually just read the Bible.
Yeah.
I'm not a podcast guy.
No, I know. Well, you can also wait for the print edition when that comes out in an unspecified date.
Am I going to be...
What?
Is this word that I'm saying right now?
No. Nothing that you're saying ends up in it. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a bummer. I should just leave. What am I doing here?
Unless you want to be in it.
I just want to have my words.
You want to have your words
Asterisk,
as part of it.
crunching sound. Asterisk.
Laughs.
Laughs to self.
Swiss seltzer.
He answered brightly.
I think that's it, unless there's anything else you
That's it? That's the whole show?
That's the whole show, yeah.
What is this? This? You called this a show?
This is Oh My God, What the Fuck Bible. Is there anything, unless there's anything else you want to discuss that comes up from this?
When do they get out of the desert in Bamidbar?
No,
the end,
they're
right?
always in the desert. Not until Joshua or Yoshua that they got out of it. Like Moshe dies without seeing the land.
Yeah, I remember that. That was kind of maybe a little teardrop for him.
Yeah.
Unfulfilling
I
ending.
established that. The thing that like stands out to me a little bit is that there's a lot of. I mean, it's interesting that the and maybe this was intentional by Margaret Atwood, but that they're given the land of Gilead in this because that's, I guess, the country, or Gilead is the name of the. I don't actually know the Handmaid's Tale, but I understand that that place is called Gilead, and there's a lot of ownership of women in this.
The only
in this parsha,
two
this
things that
episode.
my political ideology is based on are The Handmaid's Tale and Harry Potter.
Congratulations, you're a millennial. Or a caricature of millennial.
Trump is Dumbledore, right?
Yeah, Drumpf.
No, wait, he's
no. Trump
he's-
is Cheeto Voldemort.
He's Ganondorf, and then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's Link.
She's not Hermione.
No,
Okay.
and she has the Triforce of Courage,
Mm-hmm.
and Drumpf has has the. You know where I'm going with this.
Yes.
The Horcrux of power.
But it is very troubling to me that that sticks out to me from this.
What?
Sorry, that there's a lot of stuff about ownership of women in this. The fact that women essentially, like, one of the most important things that you can do in this culture is make a vow, and women don't have their power to do that. Especially because this whole thing is about like these negotiations and making a word for your word meaning something, and then all those virgin women. I mean, the complete genocide of Midian, except for virgin women who were presumably taken as slaves or just given to men.
I mean, in Gemara class, which again I did enjoy, and I do actually, it would be nice to have a machlokas every once and again. Mm-hmm. I do remember that we went into great detail into like the laws of the concubines and the slaves thing, and it was also something that when I asked, okay, like, because I guess in the 90s it was cool to have piercings or whatever for men, and I was like, well, why can't we have piercings? It's like not a tattoo; you can just get rid of it. And they were like, oh, well, it's like a thing that denotes that you're a slave, and
Right.
this whole thing. And I was like, okay, that was just something that like we went really deep into the laws guiding slave ownership. Yeah, and that was just something that was like a little confusing to me because I don't have to be that smart of a person, I don't think, to know that slavery is
Yeah.
probably something we shouldn't be down with.
Not good. Yeah.
Not maybe the 11th commandment would have been updated.
Do not own slaves.
Amendments.
Well, it couldn't have been because this was like every single one of the patriarchs was a slave owner.
I mean, the whole, people would say that it was normal for the time or what have you.
Right, but I mean, like, what I mean is that for the morality of the time, and I'm not. This isn't to defend it. This is like the idea of a slave and a master is repeated throughout. Like
Kinky.
Exactly. It's very BDSM. But like every one of the forefathers, the word is typically translated. The word is eved, and the word is typically translated as servant in most English translations of the Bible, but the word means slave. All of them had slaves, and it kind of gets slave washed in most English translations. I would
Slave
say.
wash. That's a new one. No, I mean, it's again, the Torah is very particular about what it goes into detail with.
Yeah.
And the rules guarding slave ownership are very particular, and
Because there wasn't.
But I also remember that like you could choose to continue being a slave if you like took another earring or something.
But that's only if you were a member of the tribe.
Yeah, and
if
then,
you were
like,
an Israelite, you
I
would
guess
have
there was,
your,
like-
your ear like jammed into the doorpost.
I guess they would have like indentured servitude. I guess that would be something.
It would be sort of like that. But if you were not a member of the tribe, if say you were, I mean, women are literally property. Like these thousands of virgin women who are taken captive, like they're just given to men, and they're not necessarily part of the tribe.
Oh, I also remember that there's like a scene where like Lot has sex with his daughter or something like
Yes.
that. That's actually straight from
Lot
the Bible.
is raped by his daughters.
And then there's that scene where they call some sage like Baldy, and then like some bear eats some kid or
Yes,
something.
that's later on in the prophets, I
yeah,
think. Yeah,
that's like straight from the Bible. Some weird stuff in there.
There's a lot of weird, troubling, morally questionable stuff. Yeah, but to what you were saying about slavery, like it's not just that it was morally acceptable at the time. Like, it was the culture. It wasn't. It's not really an excuse, that it's inherent to the text.
Well, I just think that if we're looking towards this text to serve as a guide for modern day moral living, I think that there are definitely some good lessons to take from it, but there are some lessons that we should reconsider.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's kind of, everybody picks and chooses what they look at in the Bible. Like, from...
It's a long book.
Yeah, from the most conservative Christian to the, social justice Jewish liberal, and we can't get hung up on thinking that you have to follow everything, because we all clearly avoid some things.
Well, it is specific in saying that, not all 613 mitzvot can be done by every individual person. And there's some for women, and there's some for this, and there's some for that, so not everyone can do everything. But I don't want to say that I looked down on, but I also remember that, like, because it was the Bush years, it was very fashionable to hate on evangelicals because they were a much more influential voting bloc then. And it was just something that I was always like, they're not even reading the actual Bible. They're just, someone else translated it, and they're like,
no, exactly.
It always struck me as being like, that's peculiar that they are acting as the authorities on the Bible when they've read half of the books translated.
One of my favorite things to happen on Twitter is to get into fights with people who think, or watch fights with people who think that Jews and Christians have a different Bible and don't understand that the Hebrew Bible is the original.
Yeah, well, I don't have to keep kosher. What are you talking about?
Yeah, what do you mean? What Leviticus is our book. You have a different book.
Yeah, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Jewish stuff. Get that out of here.
How do you know what Leviticus 18:22 really says?
So, did you know that Obama in Hebrew translates to Satan?
Satan?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Satan.
Did you know that?
You spell it Beit Satan.
Okay. Did you know that Barak in Hebrew translates to lightning?
I thought it was like blessing or something.
No. Well, it could be Baruch, but Barak is lightning.
But that's a warning. We should have heeded the Bible's warning.
It's just the coolest possible name for a president, President Lightning.
Lightning socialism.
Yeah. Obama was Maoist.
Obama.
I think that's our show. Is there anything you want to plug, or anywhere you want an audience to check you out?
Yeah, I got a website. I got an Instagram. I guess I got to tell you guys to follow that stuff. Would be responsible. My Instagram is Simon Z Shetreat with the @ sign in front. That's the A with the little circle.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Then,
not the C.
Yeah. And then Simon Z Shetreat's my website. If you'd like, you can also follow my Facebook page, although it's inactive. Read the damn news. You can scroll through thousands of years of news archives if you want. And I also started a YouTube channel, which is sure to be embarrassing and entertaining.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So dork_Rex on YouTube. Yeah, I'm trying to do the YouTube thing.
I'll check that out. This podcast is on YouTube, but I think that's the... Thank you so much if you're listening on YouTube, folks who listen on YouTube. As always, you can follow the podcast on... Camera? What?
Don't you need a camera for YouTube?
I do. So it's just the audio, which is something that podcasts do for some reason. People listening to it on YouTube. Thank you, people who are listening right now. Most people don't, but some people do. You can find the podcast on all the places: Stitcher, Apple Podcasts,
the fuck is Stitcher?
Other things. I don't know, but they exist out there. Facebook, Twitter. Simone, I want to thank you again so much for being here and giving your time and really putting so much personality into the reading. It was really fun. As always, please rate and review the show. Please share it. A good way to share it. You specifically rate and review it, but give it a good rating. Sam's doing that handshaking thing. A good way to share the show is to print it out in like a very long scroll, like those old fax machines. Roll it up, put it in a bottle, and then toss it into an open synagogue window. That won't freak anybody out.
I was thinking like when the squire or whatever would read like the kingly decree, and it would be like, you must give me $8 million of like Robin Hood,
Yeah.
It's like,
that's literally how they read the Book of Esther, right?
I just want to be the guy who's like unrolls the scroll.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to print out this podcast like that, and then we're going to go in the subway and you're going to read that. Is that cool?
Nice. I just want to unroll it like a slinky on the stairs or something,
Well, please be sure to tune in next time. And actually, the next show is a live show. It's going to be at Anyone Comics in Brooklyn. That's 1216 Union Street, July 14th at 9:30 p.m. Because next time in the Bible...
We'll do it live. Fucking thing. We'll do it live. Fuck it.